Hello everyone, hope you're all doing well. I thought perhaps today we can talk about a subject that has always been on my mind to explain a little bit more on. Although we have covered this in our video library on our channel, but I think perhaps it would be a good idea to explore it a little bit further together and see if we can make a little bit more sense out of anxiety and what it is really. I mean, we all know how anxiety feels. We feel helpless, we feel excited, we feel we don't know what to do, we want to do something, we're worried about something. But let's explore a little bit further together what anxiety is really, why is it there, or why is it created. And of course, as you know, I'm not a doctor of medicine. My education is not in medicine, so I don't want you guys to be under any kind of an illusion. We're not talking about the medical reasons for anxiety. We're talking about what every one of us as human beings go through some kind of an anxiety through our day, in our daily lives, and we want to explore what that is and what is its relationship with our psyche and how do they play a role in all that and how we feel and perhaps how better we can manage it if we understand it a little bit further on different levels. So let's begin. Well, first let's understand part of the responsibility of our brain, our mind. You know, our mind, our brain, I just use the same word for both in this context, is designed to protect us for our survival. It's got a program to use its intellect, to use its analytical abilities, to use its alertness, to use however it is made and put together, to look to ways to protect us, which means look for trouble. The mind is constantly seeking trouble, to find where troubles are, what possibilities of troubles are out there. And it goes through tremendous amount of effort to find out if there is a possibility of trouble. It's like the games that a system of security plays, possibility of outcomes, probabilities, what ifs. And the mind is constantly busy to create all these scenarios, fictitious scenarios, however, and goes through ways of debating it, finding ways to disarm it, making it not happen, combat it, refute it, or find reasons why one should take certain steps to protect oneself of it, and constantly goes through this whole chess game, plays every move to the end, and through which occupies our mind and creates that anxiety and worry about what if that move actually, when it's played to the end, may on its way find troubles and destruction, possibilities of our plans for our life, and whatever else, our health, our security, whatever it is that it can conjure up. Because it's his job to find and look for trouble, which puts us through that turmoil of what we call anxiety. Well, now, let's go one step further. Now that we know we're not crazy, this is just how our mind is programmed to protect us, and it thinks that if it conjures up things, if it previews things or makes up things, and then tries to find ways to prevent it and worry about it and debate it, then it will not happen. Or at least he's prepared. It is prepared. If something of that sort that he has conjured up, the mind has conjured up, happens. Which in one of my books called Transient Thoughts and Me, I've explained further about these thoughts and why we should not travel with them or believe them, why we should not trust them, and why thoughts are often have no basis. They simply represent a certain kind of a scenario which doesn't even exist, and those are called transient thoughts. So pretty much anxiety or fear of it is a certain kind of a transient thoughts, which most often never even comes to any kind of fruition. But we conjure it up because the thought appears in our head and we believe it. Why do we believe a thought? Well, it's kind of like that virtual reality goggle that you can buy from different producing companies these days. And when you put the goggle on and you watch a movie, you have no way out of its goggle. Your field of vision becomes limited to what the goggle's frame is and what movie you're watching. And beyond the frame of the goggle, beyond the frame of the movie, there are nothing else that you can pay attention to. Your eyes cannot see anything beyond the borders of the goggle, which is the frame of the movie, and you feel nothing else other than the movie, what is happening in the movie, exists. Beyond that, nothing exists, because your eyes cannot see anything else, and you've been limited to this box, and your world has become the movie. And your full attention is in the movie because there's nothing else available for you to be distracted by. Your eyes cannot see anything other than what is being shown through the virtual reality goggle, the movie. Therefore, you enjoy the movie a lot. You're really into it. You get all the effects and special effects of it. You feel it thoroughly, and you are affected and excited and become one with the happenings of the movie, and you get a certain kind of enjoyment because the believability of it has been expanded to many folds. And that's how they do it. So you believe what you're limited to believe. It's all there is through the virtual reality go. Well, the same thing is happening with your thoughts, because you believe your thoughts because your thoughts are raised in the field of the known. And that field of the known, that limited field that your thoughts are playing in it, are born, are created from, is called consciousness. Your consciousness is built throughout your life, part of it through the transformation and transference of genes and qualities that your genes from ancestors thousands of years ago has come to you, and the rest of your consciousness is been built through whatever you've been exposed to since childhood. Your dogmas, religions, traditions, customs, what your mom and dad taught you, teachers taught you, what books you read, what movies you watched, what places you went, what you encountered with, what siblings and what friends and what everything else, the rules of the society, the games you played, the movies you watched, the books you looked at, the television programs you saw, all of that, everyone else in your life from childhood has been having an input in you, and that's how your consciousness has been put together, which in turn your consciousness has become your virtual reality goggle. That's your world. Beyond the frames of your consciousness, there is nothing else for you to feel that you can have a choice on considering it as an option for judging something, for perceiving something, for understanding something. Every thought, therefore, that comes up from you is based on what your consciousness limitations are, what the frame of your consciousness, the information that in your consciousness, the knowledge that you have in your consciousness, that's the field of the known. That's where your thoughts are lifted off the ground from that source on the basis of your consciousness. Therefore, your consciousness is like the virtual reality goggle, has limited your world, which the real world is unlimited, but you're now interacting and looking at your world, the unlimited world, with your limited abilities. In other words, your consciousness has limited the unlimited. You're looking at the unlimited with the limited knowledge and limited frame, and you've been boxed in to think that what your consciousness has, the information and knowledge that you've gathered in your consciousness, how it's been together, is the totality of your understanding of the unlimited world. So you're looking at the unlimited world with a limited knowledge and limited abilities. And your thoughts are born from that limited consciousness. Knowledge is always limited. So whatever knowledge you've gathered in your consciousness is limited. Therefore, you're facing the world with a limited knowledge. Yet, you think that limited knowledge, your consciousness, is the whole and the entirety of the possibilities. And that's, in that field, is where your thoughts are born. Therefore, your thoughts are what you believe, because you think there's nothing else possibly can exist, because your thoughts are born in a limited field of vision, limited field of your consciousness, limited field of the known, and the limited virtual reality goggle. So you believe your thoughts. When you believe your thoughts, then you react to it, because you've already taken it as facts, as final, as the only option available, and you react to it if it's something transient thoughts and negative, or something to worry about, then you get worried. And now you're in search of finding solutions for it, which the solutions you're looking for really are for something that is illusory, that doesn't even exist yet. But you're reacting to it. You're trying to find a ways out of it for something that hasn't even happened and may never happen, but it's a thought that's been created in your consciousness, and because that's what you think is all the world is all about, you believe your thoughts, therefore you react to your thoughts, which is reacting to the anxiety. An interesting thing is that you're reacting to an illusion, yet you believe that that illusion is the actuality, when it's actually not. I mean, never even come to be. But you're going ahead to come up with solutions, worry about it, and get to the anxiety level in order to think, and you think that if you do all that, then you're preparing for it. Then you may be able to avoid it from happening, whatever it is that you're worried about. So, isn't that silly that you're actually reacting to something that hasn't happened yet, and may never even happen? And it could be just a wind that passing by, but you're taking it as a full-fledged storm, and you're reacting to the storm, but it was just a wind, an ocean of breeze that could have actually been maybe pleasant in a way, but you turned it into some tsunami, and you're preparing for that and putting yourself through so much trouble for actually nothing. It is like saying, let's put it this way. Let's say we have heard and we are convinced, or we've seen examples of our friends that they say, if you're in certain kind of a situation, or certain kind of a stressful situation, or certain things that you're facing with, you may get a headache. Or if you get a cold, you may get a headache. Because we've seen others got a headache, and they told us that, for certain reason or certain situation, a stressful situation, or having a cold, they had a headache. So headache is something that has happened to others, and we have found out that there is such a thing called headache. But let me tell you, since we believe there is a headache possibility, headache is possible for one reason or another, is that good enough reason for you? The fact that headache exists, or could exist, could happen, is it enough for you to go and get an aspirin? Do you take an aspirin just because you know there's a possibility of headache, that others have had headaches in their life? So I know headache can exist, and therefore I know it can, even I may get a headache. So is it reasonable for you? Would you, because of that knowledge, go get an aspirin or painkiller of any kind, of your choice, and take it just because it's possible that a headache may come someday, because you know headache can exist? Is that good enough for you to go get an aspirin or Tylenol or whatever kind of pain relief is for headaches? Do you do that? Think about it. Do you do that? No, you won't. Not until you have a headache. Not until you're proven beyond the shadow of the doubt you are having a headache. Then you take the medicine. Then you take the aspirin, Tylenol, whatever it is that you take. So by knowing that there's a possibility of headache, it's not enough for you to take an aspirin. You wait until actually physically you can feel it and it is proven that you have a headache. But why is it that when we think of something, or we think there's a possibility of something happening, and it hasn't happened yet, but our mind gets focused on it, conjures it up, and the fear of it, the fact that we know it's possible, may be possible, it may never happen. But just because we know about it, is it good enough to actually feel that we should panic and go through the anxiety and worry and so on because the possibility is there? Just like the possibility of headache was there, you didn't go to take a medication for it just because the possibility is there. You waited until the actual headache comes along. So why is it that we don't wait until the actual bad things that we are afraid of or worried about and we have anxiety for actually prove itself that it's happening? Actually that it happens, and then we try to find a solution or deal with it or manage it or remedy for it. Why do we go through the whole process of anxiety and worry and become paranoid and so on? Because of the possibility of something happening, but it hasn't happened yet. The headache hasn't happened. We don't take medication for it until it does. So why do we actually try to react to something that hasn't happened, the anxiety stuff, and we go through the motion of it, and we believe the thoughts? Why do we believe the thoughts before we actually see it happening? The thought is like the idea of the headache, but the headache hasn't happened, so we don't take medication for it. The thought of some kind of an event that brings anxiety to us, it's a thought. Why do we react with anxiety and worry to it when the thought hasn't actually come to be an actuality? So why don't we treat this the same way we treat the knowledge of headache? Is not reason enough for me to take an aspirin. So the thought of an anxiety or some situation that may happen that worries me is not enough for me to worry and to be anxious, to react, to become paranoid, to try to find a remedy, because it's a thought. But it's not an actuality. A thought is not a reality. A thought, most thoughts are illusion. Life, in most cases, most things about it, because we created by thought in most cases, is an illusion. The reality is the illusion that you focus on. And these thoughts about things that can happen that brings anxiety to us, these are all illusions, transient thoughts. But because we focus on it and we believe that it is real, is true, our consciousness has become our virtual reality goggle, and we believe the limitation of what is in our consciousness. We believe the thoughts. We believe the thoughts within this real, and we try to come up with remedy and react to it. If we think about it, thought is just like that wind that was passing by, and we took it and turned it into a tsunami, and we believed that that is a tsunami. We believe the thought is actuality. A thought is thought. It brings anxiety, but there is no anxiety. There's no real actuality of that what has caused you to be anxious. But you believed your thoughts, and therefore you thought the thought is a reality, is an actuality. But it's not. A thought is a thought. So if we think of it that way, we will find that we need not to react to what we think we should react to as an anxiety. Transient thought. Thought comes and goes, and let it be until it is proven that the actual something that we are afraid of, worried about, is happened. And then there are ways and logics, and if it's medical situation, then there are doctors and medical establishments that we can get help from. There are things that we can do when something happens, you know? It's like, there's no fire, you panic and starts calling the fire department. Why for? You thought there is a fire, but there is no fire. So let's focus on the actuality rather than the illusion of a thought being an actuality. It's like dreaming, and in our dream we wake up and we think that it was real, but we realize it wasn't. And we should be able to tell the difference between actuality, illusions, and the thought, and the headache, if it needs aspirin or not.